Craig Smoak.
You know, I was sitting there watching Baylor run the football the way they did, not just recently, but then Brigham Young happened, and Abram Smith and Ebner and all the others. They just pounded a really good football team and made them like it. And I was thinking, okay, who can we have? And we have analysts that come on and all that, but Walter Abercrombie was pretty damn good as a running back at Baylor with Grant Tapp as his head coach, and thought he would be perfect to kind of talk about the wide zone and what they're doing. And Walter Abercrombie joins me, of course, he runs the Baylor Letter Winners Association on Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you just been almost blown away in the night and day from a year ago to this year?
Yeah, it has been. It's been a lot of fun to watch, too. Not only have I been blown away, it's sort of an enjoyment to be blown away, to watch not only the running backs, but the blocking. This like Saturday, I thought it was a total domination of the BYU defensive line. Our offensive line exercised their will. You know, and those two little running backs that you're referring to, I'm starting to feel like there's probably not a better pair in the nation than Abram Smith and Tristan Edmonds.
Walter, on Abram Smith in particular, this is a guy who was playing linebacker at a pretty high level and was a running back by trade when he came into school, but how impressive is it that he was able to step in and be a running back again, and not only a running back, but an elite one?
Well, you know, he's an athlete, and most of the time when you see, it's really not uncommon to see linebackers switch over to running backs or running backs turn to tight ends. And you know, we had one of the great ones with Greg Hawthorne, who was a running back here at Baylor, and then in the NFL he turned to be a tight end, and we saw the same thing with Keith Byers, and so who was from Ohio State. I played with him at the Eagles, but it happens, and for him to do it so quickly and have the success that he's had, I think speaks volumes of the kind of athlete he is. He's a tough guy. I mean, I saw him deliver a blow to get in the end zone Saturday that it would have knocked a lot of running backs over backwards. But he delivered a blow, and that's what I like about Abram. Is he takes the battle to the defensive players rather than the defensive players taking the battle to him.
Walter, what stands out to you most about this offensive line? I mean, I think the scheme, obviously, that they put in with Jeff Grimes and Eric Mateos has paid dividends and worked really well. But, I mean, these are most of the same players from last year. You know, these are most of the same guys. And they've obviously had to change different things here and there. But just the development, the hire of Eric Mateos and Jeff Grimes, your thoughts on the big uglies, so to speak, up front and what they're doing right now?
Well, I love the way the offensive line is playing. Obviously, there's been a tremendous improvement in whatever they're doing. But you know, someone told me once that if you're a great teacher and you can teach things in a way that players or people can understand it, you could be a great coach. So I got a feeling that we have on our staff right now some great teachers who are helping the offensive line understand what they need to do, and then they're preparing themselves physically to do it. Also, the way our offensive line moves now, the way they are moving and positioning their bodies when the ball is snapped, it may be that we have the type of personnel that can do that better than, say, if we were just lining up and coming hard off the ball going forward. We may not be as good in that area. So there's I think the ability to teach, the ability to know what you're doing, to figure out schemes, to have the right personnel in the game, and I think, boy, we've mastered that. It's unbelievable to see those offensive linemen blocking the way they have done this season.
Did you have to go into Google, like many thousands of fans have had to do, and figure out what is a fullback?
No, I'm very familiar with that. And, you know, Smoak, I tell you that to watch them, I think Abram doesn't really run like a fullback. I mean, you think of a fullback being a big guy, he put big fullback like Doyle land. I mean, that's what you consider a fullback. But Abram is not as big, but he runs so tough. I mean, he plants that foot, turns upfield, and he is bringing it. And he has the speed to match. So I'm just really impressed with the Baylor offense. And we haven't even gotten around to talking about that quarterback yet. So, but that's another issue. But yeah, the running backs are extremely. They're working efficiently this year, but really, really impressed with Abram.
Yeah, let's talk about that quarterback then, Walter. He just threw his first interception the other day. Yeah, it was in the end zone. The defense rallied and made sure it didn't ultimately matter, and then the offense, of course, made sure it didn't matter at all down the stretch. But how impressive have you been with Gary this year?
I've been really impressed with him. I mean, it's just difficult to watch and not be impressed with him. Here's a young man who is playing within himself. He's not being asked to do something he's not, not good at doing or comfortable doing. He's playing exactly the way he needs to play. And I give credit to Jeff Grimes and the offensive coaches for keeping him within himself. And he's been effective doing that. And we haven't asked him to run a whole lot. He's just handing that ball off. He's letting his linemen block. He's making smart plays. And when he does have to pass, if y'all notice, he has a lot of time to set his feet and throw the ball. And that's an efficient running offense. I couldn't be more impressed than I am.
What have you made, Walter, of Dave Aranda rolling the dice? Now, analytics have often been something that he looks at first, and they often have pointed him in the direction of like, yeah, this makes sense to go for it in this situation. I think there was, some of those fourth and shorts last week. You see the confidence in the offense, but also the situations made sense to go for it. But what do you think of sort of the aggressive style of play calling, so to speak, on those, fourth down type of plays?
I agreed with every call that he's made on fourth down all season except one, and that was against Oklahoma State when we made a call on fourth down in our own territory, and I just didn't see the upside. We still had 8 minutes to go on the clock. There wasn't a real need to do that, but hey, man. I'm sitting here in an armchair, and it's easy for me to make that call. They're down on the field. They're in the moment. And so they saw something that maybe I didn't see. They decided to do it. Just didn't work out. And I think it ended up hurting us. But that's why those guys are coaches, and that's why I'm a former commentator.
Former, but you still know the game. That's why we have you on.
But to your point, I mean, that I remember that play too, and that one was a little bit questionable. Yeah. But for the most part, you've got faith in your offense to pick up a yard, and that's something, Walter, they never would have been able to do last year. Like 4th and 2, forget about it. There's no chance. But now it's 4th and 3. They're like, all right, let's run the football. It's just been an amazing departure from a year ago.
And I'll tell you what it does. It builds confidence in your offensive line. You got your wide receivers out there. They're wanting to go for it. Everybody's wanting to win this game. And you can see if the quarterback walks in and says, guys, you know what, we're going to get this first down. Let's do everything we can to do. Let's block our tails off. Let's get it done. And they go up to that line of scrimmage. And I mean to tell you, they just get it done. And so I think it breeds confidence in your linemen, in your offensive unit, and it exercises your will. And the message that it gives the defense can be pretty demoralizing. I mean, it is, we're going to come up here and we're going to make you stop us. And until you stop us, we're going to challenge you every daggum fourth down there is. And so I love their aggressiveness, and it's been working wonders for our team.
So let me ask you about Dave Aranda. And as you know, Walter, he's got a little Grant Taft to him. And then again, he's his own unique guy, and he seems like this is a perfect fit. And, of course, we understand the college profession, the coaching. We saw what happened with Ed Orgeron, who just 2 years ago won a national title, whatever. Don't you feel like this is kind of a unique – he's almost like a Scott Drew, Grant Taft type for Baylor football?
Well, it's interesting you said that. I totally agree with that. I was just reading a comment where he talked about mastering your craft.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds very much to me like a Grant Taft phrase or a Chuck Noll phrase, where you are mastering your craft. That means that everything you're doing, whether it be off the field, on the field, in the weight room, doing conditioning, you're getting better. And that message resonates with players because if you buy into it, then everything you do is going to be headed toward the goal that you've set as a team. And so all of that is right in line with Coach Taft, right in line with Scott Drew, right in line with Chuck Noll, some of the great ones. And so I read that and I was that's pretty impressive for a young coach. I do consider Dave young. He's still pretty young, but anyway, he's got the minds of his players, and what's impressive is that he's only been here a couple of years, and they're buying into what he's selling.
Walter, you and I traded a text or two with you earlier, and you're the one that gave me the heads up about Dr. Derwin Gray, who was on campus. He has a church in South Carolina near Charlotte, just outside really the suburbs of Charlotte. He played at Judson High School. He's going to join us today in an interview that I recorded with him at 5:30. What were your thoughts about his appearance today with Baylor Athletics?
Man, he was pretty impressive. I got to admit that I didn't really know him before, had not really heard of him, but he came in and I'm just really told it how it was. I think he spoke out of the scripture, and he talked about, coming together as a nation, and it was all biblically based. And what a very impressive young man. He is, he's out of the, he grew up kind of in the tough side of San Antonio, African-American, talented athlete, but wasn't recruited by a lot of schools in the Big 12 or the Southwest Conference at the time. And so he goes to BYU. Can you imagine, what it must have been like for him? But he said he learned something there, which was, how to meet people where they are. And he said once he learned that, he began speaking the language of the people that were there. And he said that, I think that common ground that he was able to find is what helped him get through the experience at BYU, but also helped him grow as a person.
Yeah, and we're going to have that today at 5:30. Walter Abercrombie, a former Baylor running back, now runs the Baylor Letter Winners Association, which is always something that juggles some of the great names, Walter, right, in the Baylor history. You can release a great class, but it's never enough, is it?
It's never enough, man. And I'm really excited about the upcoming about the Hall of Fame event in the next 2 weeks. We're really excited about that because some of the people that you're talking about, those great ones, we're going to be honoring them and inducting them in the Hall of Fame on Friday night, the 29th of October. So I hope folks to come out and support these people that are going into the Hall of Fame.
Walter, I know it'll be kind of far out, but I think there's some Hall of Fame candidates on this football team. I was just curious, your thoughts when you see the Jalen Petries, the Tristan Edmonds, the Dylan Doyles, and we've talked about a lot of the other guys as well, the Gary Bohannons, but just the makeup of this team and some of the all-time type of performances we've seen from these guys. I mean, what are your thoughts as they get to kind of collectively, catch their breath a little bit and then, go on this second half run?
Well, I do think you're starting to see stars emerge. These players on the field last year for us, some of them, of course, Petrie, what an unbelievable player he is. He's become sort of a fan favorite. Everybody loves him. He's such a hard-working player, exciting player to watch. Dylan Doyle has been a huge surprise, I think, to a lot of folks. He was a great linebacker, but whoever would have thought that he could step in the backfield or line up as a fullback and go out for a pass. I never thought about that, but I think that young man probably made him a little bit of money Saturday by showing the NFL scouts that he's capable to play both sides of the field. Ebner, everybody's greatest player. If you're a Baylor fan, Tristan Ebner, he can do it all. Boy, he showed some speed on Saturday, although he didn't have the kick returns that we normally see him do. But man, he was able to turn the corner. And when you can turn the corner and stay and outrun people's angle, that means you got some kind of engine in you, and he does. But Abram Smith, and we talked about Bernard, just an unbelievable player. These players are emerging, and they're emerging as really superstars. And Bohannon, just not throwing as many interceptions as he's thrown, and I couldn't be more pleased or impressed with this football team. And think about the lack of, penalties that they've had this year. Pretty amazing. That tells me that there's something going on with this Baylor program that I think is going to surprise a lot of folks here in the next few years.
Walter, thank you very much for your time as always. Appreciate you. Thanks for your time, Walter Abercrombie. That Hall of Fame class that he was mentioning is going to be on the night before they play Texas. It's going to be a basketball-centric class.